Hey there, this is a short video on using Multistreamer in Docker. If you're not familiar with Multistreamer, it's a web app for pushing video to multiple video services simultaneously, so you can stream video to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. It also supports Beam and Facebook. I do want to let you know you're really not supposed to push to Facebook Live and other platforms at the same time unless that other platform is your own first-party site. So if you're, say, a news agency, it's fine to push to Facebook Live video and your own news site. But you're really not supposed to push Facebook Live video to, say, Facebook Live and Twitch, at the same time. So just be aware of that. But it's still, even if you don't, this actually does still provide some pretty good value for pushing without necessarily multicasting it. For instance, on Facebook, it's pretty hard to push your own profile with RTMP. It's pretty easy to do it for pages, but not for personal profiles. But this makes it easy to do it for personal profiles, as well as pages, groups, and events. But anyways, enough about that. So for this tutorial, you're going to need Docker installed along with Docker Compose. That's the only real prerequisite. So in this case, I'm using Ubuntu VM. You'll want to make a some kind of DNS entry, that points to this VM, or in this case, I just have something in my Etsy host file. So I've set up streamdev.jrjrtech.com, right? And you can see it's going to 192.168 address. And you'll want to decide, how you want to, once you're ready to get this onto like a production type setup, how you want to secure it, / layer it or whatever. So today, I'm going to be running Nginx in front of Multistreamer. And so Nginx will be what actually listens on port 80. And I'm just going to do a very basic setup where it just rejects all traffic into Multistreamer. But, in the real world, you probably have Nginx figuring, accepting connections for multiple host names and passing them to the appropriate backends or whatever. And I'm not going to be setting up SSL. That's something else you'll want to do. I think that's outside the scope of this tutorial. You can set up SSL with, Nginx or Stunnel or HA proxy, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so let's get going. So I've gone ahead and already cloned down the Docker Multistreamer repo, which is just, available on GitHub. Yeah, so the first thing you want to do is, I probably still have my old override file in here, so let me go ahead and just wipe that out. There we go. So there's two main files in here. There's your Docker Compose file that specifies what images to run and how they're linked to each other, and that's it. So to customize it for your environment, the first thing you're going to have to do, and even if you don't plan on doing a lot of customization, you're going to have to do this. You want to copy the example override file to, there we go, to dockercompose.override.yml. And what this does is when you run Docker Compose up, it'll read in everything from this override file. So here's where you can specify where you want to store your volumes for your permanent data. You can specify what ports you want to listen on. You can specify config items for Multistreamer down here. And so yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is, since I want to run this behind Nginx anyways, I'm going to make the web port not listen on every single interface. I'm going to have it just listen on the loopback address 127.0.0.1, and then I'll have Nginx proxy connections to that. That way I can't connect to port 8081 from the outside world directly. And you could do the same with the IRC and RTMP ports. So for instance, if you wanted to enforce people to come in to IRC with SSL, you could have Stunnel or HA proxy listen on, say, port 7000. Wrap it up in SSL and then pass it to Multistreamer, and you could have this say, yeah, only accept connections from localhost, so that it could only accept connections from that front end TLS endpoint. Same thing with RTMP, you can do that. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it for right now. Okay, and the default mode that this is going to run in is, it's going to uh, let me hold on, sorry. So you have to have some kind of authentication for all this, right? To store your users. And by default, if you don't do anything, it's going to run with a authentication server that, like when you log in, it'll automatically create the user you're trying to log in as and save the password or save a password hash. So it's handy for just trying this out initially because you can just log in with whatever and you're in and you're good to go. But you can also make an HT password file similar to what Apache uses, and basically just drop that into. There's a folder here called HT password. If you drop it in there and start up the whole compose setup, it'll read from that and use that for its users, so that you can start restricting people or restricting users, or you can set up your own authentication endpoint and provide that here as an environment variable. So for instance, I didn't include it because it would make the image start getting really complicated, but I have a project for providing like an LDAP auth endpoint. And all the auth endpoint is something you make an HTTP request against, and you need to respond with a 401 authorization required. All right, and then accept the authorization header that you send in and send back, and then reply with a 200 or 204 or 403. 200 or 204 for a pass, 400 plus for a fail. So what's nice about that is you can write your auth endpoint in any language. So if you want to auth against WordPress, you could write something in PHP that queries the WordPress database or something. If you want to be kooky and write against, say, auth against an IMAP server, you can do that. Like whatever you have that already provides authentication, you can write a very simple, straightforward HTTP server that'll just, basically proxy your authentication request to whatever backend you want and then respond with the right status codes. So, okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do after we said, okay, we're going to run this behind Nginx, and we're going to have a host name for this, is you want to update your public HTTP URL field. This is this should end at like the root of your domain, whether or not you're going to be running this under the root of your domain. So I decided I was going to have this under streamdev.jrjrtech.com. I don't need to provide a port or anything because I'm just going to connect on the default port. Unlike my production setup, this is actually HTTPS because I have Nginx, have rules to say only let people in on HTTPS, like it'll auto redirect you and things like that. If you are going to be running this under not the root of your domain, down here under HTTP prefix, that is where you would set that. So for instance, if you wanted people to go to like streamdev.jrjrtech.com/multistreamer, right? You would put that here. And oh man, I'm not sure. I think you need to have a beginning slash on that, but you don't want. I know you don't want an ending slash. That's not important. I do believe the beginning slash is necessary. But you never need the ending slash. So when you're talking about running on the root, you don't need to set that to slash. And if you do, it'll just wipe it on anyway. So it's not a big deal if you do. So if you do want to be like explicit, I mean, I guess you can. The public RTMP URL isn't quite as important as the HTTP URL. I'm sorry. I should specify the HTTP URL. This is used for both, generating links for the user to do things. It is also used when the user goes to add their accounts, because when they click, say, add my Facebook account, it's going to redirect them to Facebook, and they're going to click authorize, and then it's going to redirect them back to whatever URL Multistreamer gave it. So you want to make sure this public HTTP URL plus your HTTP prefix, actually resolves to something that the user's browser will be able to hit. So, like I said, since this is just on my box, having a host name under Etsy host is fine, but in a real world scenario, you'd want some kind of DNS for this. Okay, so the RTMP URL is going to be pretty similar. It's just your host name. If this is wrong, it's not a big deal because the user, you can tell your users, oh yeah, it should actually be this, but you should make this, whatever you want the user to have to punch into OBS or XSplit or whatever. And this is what will be shown. This string basically just gets shown as is in the web interface. And same thing with the IRC hostname. That'll just get copied as is to the web interface. If you're going to have, say, Stunnel listed on port 7000, or HA proxy, you know, listen to port 7000, have that do SSL. You can change this IRC port to whatever you want to show in the web interface. Along with, I should move this up, but there's a SSL flag to basically say, like, you know, display a string telling the user they need SSL turned on. And so yeah, those are the basic, like, you want to change your session secret, that's used for encrypting things. But those are your basic settings for just the core, like making this all work. So the next thing we'll go through is setting up the different streaming services. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to go through Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, but I'm going to stop at Beam. Mostly because I haven't tested Beam in a while, and they renamed a Mixer, so I don't think they're going to be changing, you know, the API endpoints that I need to use, but I mean, they could, who knows. So I'll just have to keep an eye on that. So yeah, if you come into the Multistreamer wiki, I have pages for each of the different network modules. So let's pull all those up. And I have instructions on how to register apps on all of these. And I've done this enough time making these videos that you know, I can do this off the top of my head now. But let me just delete some of these old apps. You know what, I'll delete them later because it's not going to hurt anything to have them up and running. So let's go ahead and make a new one. So let's see, we'll make a new app. We'll call this Multistreamer Docker Demo 4. It's my fourth one that I've done. God. Those captchas always make me feel like a robot when I get them wrong. So let's see here. We'll go ahead and add Facebook login. This is always misleading. I'm always convinced that I have to click something to choose, like, oh, I want to do, you know, an Android OAuth or whatever, but no, just computer settings. And we're going to start punching in our redirect URI. So your redirect URI is going to be your public HTTP URL plus your prefix, if you're doing that, and then /auth/Facebook. So, oops. So streamdev jrtech.com/ I'm running this on the root. So then /auth/Facebook. And we'll just save that. And then let's come here to our settings, and we will get our app ID and app secret. You can also get this from the dashboard. The dashboard will also show you your app ID, app secret. So let's see here, Facebook app ID, and then my Facebook app secret. All right, so that's Facebook. Let's go and do Twitch next. So let's see here. So I've got links to take you straight where you got to go. So I've already registered an app. I'm just going to reuse this one. The register your application screen takes you to basically the same screen where you'll give it a name and punch in your redirect URI. In which case, again, it's, you know, your public HTTP URL /prefix if it exists /auth/Twitch. And you can choose anything you want for the broadcaster category. And we'll go ahead and make a new client ID and secret. So let's copy that secret. And then for the ingest server, you'll want to pick a ingest server that's near your server. I used to have this as a setting for like the users to choose, but they would just choose what was near them, and they didn't, you know, it's kind of like, well, you know, it's not like my server moves. I mean, I should really just pick whatever's actually close to my server. All right, so there's Twitch. So then let's do YouTube. So we'll pull up the Google Developers Console. And I believe if you haven't been here before, it'll ask you about making an app. Maybe not, I'm not sure. It's been a while. But there's a menu up here. And this is where you can start making new apps. So we will go ahead and do a Multistreamer Docker demo, Docker demo 4. And it doesn't immediately switch you into that app. Like, you'll notice I'm still on 3, and that's because, I think it's because it takes a little bit to actually make the apps. A little bit being just a few seconds, so I don't know why they just don't make you wait the few extra seconds and auto switch you, but anyways. So we'll go ahead and enable some libraries. So let's look up the YouTube data API, and we will enable that. And we will enable the Google Plus API, which, you know, I might not need this. I'm going to try not doing that for a second here. Because even though in the YouTube API, I have to like request a thing that has Google Plus in the name, I don't know if I actually need that. And I'm curious to see what happens if I don't do it. So let's just wing it. So you'll come to credentials and you'll create a new OAuth client ID. Let's configure our consent screen, which is where you show when the user says like, yeah, I want to use this app. You know, what will show, what will the homepage URL be, product, you know, logos, a lot of stuff. I'm not going to fill this in for now, but you know, if you want to make some kind of service that's available to the public, you should, you know, fill all this in. And we're going to make a web app. And we will set up our authorization redirect URI. So stream dev.jared, tech.com / auth YouTube. And hitting create just like adds it to that list, and then hitting create again actually like makes your OAuth stuff. So then we'll copy our client ID and secret. Client ID, client secret. And for the country code, we'll just punch in US. You just do your 2-character country code. And that is it for the Multistreamer setup. Now I've already set up Nginx, but it's pretty straightforward. I just edited the default, and when you run this behind Nginx, you need 2 entries. You need one for everything except WebSockets, and then one for WebSockets. And this is all, there's nothing crazy here, you know, just standard proxy pass. I'm turning off buffering. I just want bytes to get passed, you know, as soon as they come in. And then for the WebSocket, I'm setting the upgrading, you know, connection headers. One thing you might want to do is if you're running this behind an SSL terminator, there are times where it's, I think I've worked out the bugs in Multistreamer that'll make this happen, but it is possible to generate a redirect URL that begins with HTTP, even though you're running behind HTTPS. So I always set this proxy redirect. This will basically say when you get a redirect from whatever you're proxying, if it begins with HTTP : replace it with HTTPS : so the client never gets the HTTP, you know, plain text redirect, which is not the biggest deal. I think most web browsers will just say like, okay, you know, and just deal with it. But if you rewrite it before it gets there, then they just stay on HTTPS the whole time. And I think that is required if you start getting into setting HTST, whatever those are, headers, the more secure, you know, SSL stuff. But yeah, that's part of why I'm not going over SSLs. That's really dependent on like what your requirements are. So yeah. Otherwise everything in this config is stock. These are the only 2 sections I've added. And if I were to try to, you know, run curl on localhost, I'll get an error because, you know, the Docker stuff's not running yet. So, and FYI, this is this repo is set up so that the docker compose.override.yml file will never get overwritten when you do a git pull or anything. That's completely ignored by Git. So you can store a copy of that in a different repo somewhere. You know, you can have multiple. You can have like a docker compose.prod.yml, and you can, you know, you can layer your docker compose files by running like docker compose -f your base file, right, and then another -f in the next file you want to read in. So if I had like a prod.yml, I could do that. .override gets read in automatically. So we can just do Docker compose up, and that'll pull it up. So yeah, that start up a database. You know what? I think that, let me clear this all out so that you see it from like the scratch. I think I've got, yeah. There we go. I deleted all my containers and I deleted all my volumes. So now to remake new containers, new volumes. There we go. Okay. So now I can just log in here, stream dev, and this is, right now this is set up with the built-in, just, yeah, the first time you log in, it'll make it, you know, anytime anybody logs in, it'll just auto-make that user. So I've now made 2 users, John and Test. If I type in a wrong password, it did save that password hash. So that's kind of insecure. So let me show you how you can lock it down a little bit. So I mentioned earlier with the default override file, Docker compose override. I've got a line here where I mount a folder and is a volume at Etsy HTTP auth server. Basically, if inside the container, this file HTTP auth server, or I'm sorry, Etsy HTTP auth server / HTTP password exists, it'll fire up the HTTP password based auth server using that file. So I've got that HTTP password folder, and I've got a already made HTTP password file. So let me bring that in. Right, with just, you know, and you can make that using HTTP password on the command line, or there's web tools you can use, you know, to make that stuff if you want. So now that that's there, I can just do Docker compose up again. And it is now using that, and you can verify that by, you know, the only user in that file was John. So you'll notice now test is getting denied. But, you know, I can log in since I'm in the file. Yeah, so that gives you a little bit, you know, a little bit of locking down action. And like I said, you can do stuff like you can write your own auth against WordPress or whatever. So yeah, now that's all set up, let's go ahead and start adding some accounts. And so let me just point out here, let me copy what's a shorter one? These are all pretty long. Well, let's copy the Twitch URL. I was saying before how you have to make sure you get that like public facing thing right, the public HTTP URL thing right, and that's because here, let's see, yeah, there's a redirect URI flag that gets passed to Twitch that specifies, it's kind of hard to read because it's like encoded, but there's http://streamdev.com/auth/twitch, and you need this redirect. This redirect URI is generated by Multistreamer, and you need it to match whatever you punched in to Twitch when you registered your app. And you know the same thing applies to YouTube, Facebook, all that. So let's go ahead and add my Twitch. And we'll add a YouTube account. And we'll add a Facebook. Now, one thing with Facebook is you want to, you know, by default, like you have to go through a whole review process if you want to open your app up to the world. And I've, you know, I run a small setup with like me and 2 other guys. So instead of doing the app review, I just added them as admins to the app, and then they could skip the app review and use it. But part of the app review involves like writing a terms of service and things like that. So yeah, I just have it in like permanent develop mode so that I can quickly change things when I need to and, you know, not worry about it. So anyways, so yeah, I've now got accounts. You can also add custom RTMP URLs where you just punch in what URL, you know, you want to stream to, and that's useful for, say, if you're streaming to your own site that, you know, can accept RTMP video, you can do that. Or you can stream to Periscope with that, but that's the whole other video, I think. So yeah, we're going to make a stream name, let's call it whatever. And we'll go over some settings here real quick. So I'll go ahead and set this to stream to Twitch and YouTube. this required preview before going live, the default is no, meaning the second I start pushing video, it'll just start pushing Twitch and YouTube. You can set it to yes, and that'll make it so the user has to come into the web interface and like see the preview is working, and then hit go live. And then webhooks are pretty neat. These are right now all I support is Discord, but in Discord you can go to a channel that you're like an admin of, or a server that you're an admin of, and pop open a channel, and you can create webhooks for posting things to that channel. So you go and you make a webhook, and you can paste it here into the URL field, and then you can if you want to specify, you can write up some notes for yourself, because the webhook URL doesn't make it totally obvious, you know, what channel or server you're going to. So you can type in here like, oh yeah, like my personal server, you know, on the coffee channel, whatever. And you can have it send notifications for when you start streaming, when you stop streaming, and it can pull in comments that people leave on your videos and relay them into the Discord channel for you. So if you just want to, if you use Discord a lot and you just want to have one channel where you can read your comments coming in and all that, you can do that. And then under advanced, we have the FFmpeg pool args. That is a very specific use case, but like, let's say you have some service that isn't able to push video, like you can't tell where to push video to, but you can pull from it. You can specify like yeah, I want to pull from, you know, something.com / you know, video.flv, and it'll stream that URL into Multistreamer for you. It'll run a pooler, and then and you can choose when to start and stop that pooler. And then when you start it, then it acts like a regular, you know, videos being pushed in there and all that. Again, that's pretty specific. I don't know if I even have any set up on my thing. So yeah, so let's see. We got Twitch and YouTube added, so we'll just do just streaming. Set up our metadata. On YouTube, you have to choose things like your privacy, what the incoming resolution is, incoming frame rate is. And these are actually important to get right. You want to check them because this determines what ingest endpoint you get sent to. Comedy, whatever. Did I have 2 comedies in there? Ooh, I should fix that. And yeah, that country code flag determines what categories get pulled in. But anyways, so there's that. So I believe, I think I still have my FFmpeg in my history. Yeah, sweet. This is, I'm using FFmpeg to generate like a color bar type video. You know, usually you would not do that. You would be using OBS or XSplit or something. So if you're using, say, OBS, under OBS settings, if you go to, I think it's stream, you can change the stream type from, you know, streaming services to custom streaming server. And then you'll just paste this RTMP URL into, whoops, paste this RTMP URL into the RTMP, you know, field, and you'll paste the stream key into the stream key field. In my case, I'm going to be copying it to my FFmpeg command line, just because that's easier to generate video with, you know, real quick. And so, yeah, sometimes this will take up to 10 seconds. Like it only checks every 10 seconds to see if you've gone live, and I happen to hit it right at the end of that 10 seconds, so where it looked instant. It's not. It takes 10 seconds. But you can see here the stream preview of what's coming in. And nothing has gone live yet or anything. So before I actually hit go live, let me pull up the chat. So there's a chat URL you can hit. And right now it says we're offline, stream not started. If you click down here, you can choose different chat accounts to use. And even when you're offline, you can still use the built-in IRC account, so or IRC chat type. Multistreamer acts as an IRC server, so you can actually connect with IRC to, you know, watch your chat messages and respond to chat and all that. Or if you have a team, like say you got multiple people, you know, collaborating on a stream kind of situation, you can have a little IRC channel for you to chat in, or you can, you know, you can all have this page pulled up, and you can chat amongst yourselves here, you know, without it appearing on stream or anything. So anyways, let's go ahead and hit go live. And while that's, it'll take a second, and this should say in a second here that we're online. Uh-oh. Whoa. Okay, I got some kind of weird error. Shoot. Shoot. Well, let's kill that. Oh, man. What happened here? Okay. It looks like... Actually... Let's see, I think some of those other errors are just when it's... What time is that from? Connection refused. At 15:02. Okay, yeah, that was when I was first starting all that up, which is fine. No big deal. So let's see here. Let's get out of that. You know how earlier I was like, why are there two comedy categories? I think that was the error, was I specified some kind of bad category ID. So let's change that to how to and style, sure. And even though I've stopped pushing video, I think there's still... Yeah, that's weird. I think this is happening because there's still like video on disk. Let's go and just restart this real quick. And that should wipe out anything on disk. And refresh that. Okay. And refresh that. Let's try that again. So now, see, now I gotta wait that up to 10 seconds while it checks. Okay, so go live. And this time I'm gonna wait and see for that. Okay, there we go. So yeah, somehow I got a bad category ID in there. I'll have to take a look at how that happened and figure that out. So yeah, now we are live and we can chat as our Twitch and YouTube accounts. And one thing that's nice is it doesn't have to just be a Twitch and YouTube account that you have associated with this stream. You can add more Twitch accounts or YouTube accounts, and you know, if you control them, they can pop up here. Or like let's say I wanted to share my Twitch account with somebody else on the system, I can, you know, share it with them, and those shared accounts will also pop up in that list for you to chat with. So let's go and pull up Twitch and YouTube and just take a look at what they're doing. This is going to go a little slow because I'm like on my home internet connection. But you can see they're just streaming that's exactly what I typed in earlier. And I can chat, and it will pop up into the web interface. There it is. Similar here with YouTube. There's that. And I can respond back with like, hey man. Now the Twitch messages are always instant because that's actually working on like a open IRC connection with Twitch. But so they come in immediately, whereas YouTube pulls every so many seconds, Facebook pulls every so many seconds, so they're not instant. So yeah, there's that. So let's go ahead and stop. And yeah, I believe this should say this all should get wiped out and replaced. I noticed that it didn't. However, it does say stream now started, so it did detect that we're not live anymore. But I guess so there's probably some client-side code I got to fix here to change that, but not a big deal. And you'll notice that before I clicked the Multistreamer logo, this stream had a green dot because when I had last refreshed this page, it was live. Then when I refresh the page, it's now not live and has a red dot. So let's create a new stream just for Facebook real quick. No, we won't require a preview. Let's call this like Facebook. And, whoops, I chose a page. So you can choose what profile or page you want to go to. You can set your privacy setting. I'm going to set this to myself only so that none of my friends get a notification. This continuous and sticky mode. Continuous, you generally want to default to no. It will limit your video to 4 hours. So if you want to do a longer stream, you'll probably want to set that to yes. However, when you set a video to continuous, it doesn't notify anybody when you go live. It doesn't save it to Facebook. So you want to plan out, what you want to do. Like if you're going to do, say, 24-hour stream, you want to set that to continuous, and you'll have to have some other way of, sharing the post or whatever to let people know that, hey, you're live right now. And then sticky mode is for a pretty specific situation. You generally want to leave that on no. But let's say back to that 24-hour, marathon scenario. That's where sticky mode is useful. You can set continuous to yes, sticky mode to yes. And when you go live, if it's your first time going live on this particular stream, it will, make the video and save the video ID. And if you get disconnected, it doesn't stop streaming. It doesn't turn the live video off, so that you can reconnect and it'll reuse that ID and start pushing video to the same video again. So if you just want to have, that way if you get disconnected, it's all just one post and it's fine. And then when you're done, when it's all said and done, you want to go back to operating normally. You can set sticky mode back to no. So sticky mode is good for, like I said, you're doing like a 24 or 48-hour marathon or something. There's a good chance you'll get kicked off the internet somehow. And so it's good to have that so you can quickly just reconnect and not trigger new notifications, even though continuous mode wouldn't trigger notifications, but not make a new video. People can just stay on that post and, and you can come back, to it. So anyways, let's set this back to the regular modes. So like I said, continuous, if it's set to no, people are going to get a notification. It'll get saved to Facebook. But you're limited to 4 hours. And if you're simulcasting, and you hit that 4-hour mark, everything stops. Like the whole thing breaks at that point. So you really want to plan ahead a little bit. Set continuous to yes, you can go as long as you want, but people don't get notifications. It doesn't get saved to Facebook. So, okay, let's copy that stream key. Well, let's do that same video. And now let me pull up the chat for the FB test. And I have here a link to the Facebook video. There it is. And I can do things like I can react to the videos, and it'll actually tell you, like, hey, so-and-so loves this. It only responds to the first react. If somebody changes their react later, it doesn't really pick that up. I still haven't figured out how you're supposed to really do that. But yeah, and then, hey, buddy. And that'll pop in here. One thing is you can't write to Facebook from here. As far as I can tell, the Facebook API doesn't let you write comments on live videos. You can just write comments like with regular videos with the Facebook API, but for some reason not on live videos. I don't really know why. I think it has to do with they assume that you're able to watch as a replay and then would record what timestamp within the video you left your comment at, right? And I don't know if they've set up the main, like the Graph API to let you do that. But yeah, that's about everything really. So we're going to get that all shut down. And so yeah, you can quickly get up and running with Multistreamer. Quickly being relatively, I cut down on the amount of time it takes to, actually install. You don't have to compile your own Nginx. You don't have to worry about installing Lua modules and all that kind of stuff. So it cut that time way out, but you still have to deal with like actually configuring it, like registering all your apps and all that. But it's hopefully a little quicker, a little bit easier to get up and running. Oh, one other thing to go over, I should have gone over this Multistreamer DNS resolver field. In my example override config, I specify that I want IPv6 turned off. I always have problems with like I'm running. In my case, I'm running this in a VirtualBox on my Mac, and I always seem to have problems with IPv6 on VirtualBox, so I just turn it off. Hopefully you're running this on like a real server somewhere, and you actually have IPv6, and you can, enable IPv6 access. But if you're not totally sure, you can just always leave that off, and everything will work fine. You'll still, you'll be able to hit all the Facebook APIs and stuff. But if at any point, like let's say you go to add an account, or start a stream, and you get a message in Multistreamer about the network being unreachable, that's always been my number one problem. Like that's the number one cause of that problem is that I'm running a Docker and I didn't set up IPv6 correctly, and it got back an IPv6, host name or IP address, doesn't know how to get there, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that is it. I hope this was useful, and have a good day.